Well, let's say hi now to Dennis Wharton. He's the Executive Vice President of Communications for the NAB Show. Hey, Dennis. Great to see you. Get right into that microphone. We're using very directional microphones because it's a little noisy in here.
Well, thanks for being here. We're off to a great start. We just had our keynote speeches with Bob Woodruff, the ABC journalist, and Ben Sherwood, who's president of the ABC network. Gordon
exciting.
Smith, my boss, gave a nice speech, and so we're off and running, and look at all these people.
Jason Howell scored an interview with Bob Woodruff earlier, so we're going to get a little of Bob Woodruff on TNT tonight.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Five weeks in a coma.
Amazing.
Roadside bomb.
He was blown up by an IED.
Absolutely.
Was it 2006?
Yeah, and he's since started a foundation. He's raised $30 million for veterans.
That's great. When did the NAB Show start?
1923.
23. So that was a radio show.
I wasn't here then.
No, neither was I.
No, but it started
shortly
it started over copyright issues. And,
interesting.
And we're still fighting those copyright issues.
Isn't that funny?
Same folks who involve radio stations playing music.
Right.
We're still sort of fighting with record labels over that.
Isn't that funny?
It's never changed.
The record labels just don't understand. They just don't understand. Right. So was there a trade show back in the 20s?
No, so the broadcast industry started as a few broadcasters, as the FCC
getting together,
giving licenses to radio stations.
Right.
And
that was back in the blue and red network days.
That's right,
yeah.
Exactly. So, and then the association has grown, obviously, by leaps and bounds, and we're probably going to have over 100,000 people here this week. 1,700 exhibitors, the most ever. It's such a global trade show in terms of the number of people here and the companies and the countries represented. We have 166 countries represented. About a third of the attendees and a third of the exhibitors are from outside the U.S., so it speaks to the global brand of this trade show.
And I also have to say, it seems like it's more than just the traditional radio and television broadcast.
Well, the jokes by some, which is not true, is that the NAB Show stands for nothing about broadcasting.
That's not true.
I mean, about 20,000 people are in the broadcast business, but you're right. It's the internet, it's satellite, it's cable, it's all forms of communication are here on display at this show.
And that's really a better way to think of it, because it doesn't really matter how you transmit the content.
Right. I mean, there was a conscious decision made about 20 years ago to expand beyond just traditional broadcasting. Right. And it was actually a somewhat controversial decision that we moved away from our space, but I think it's proven to be such a successful venture into other forms of communication. We get networking ideas, we partner with other forms of communication, so it was absolutely the right call.
Well, and broadcasters want to learn about this as much as anybody else. This is part of their future.
Absolutely. I mean, if we wouldn't have embraced sort of the internet and other forms of communication, where would we be?
It would not be a 100,000 people show with 1,700 booths, I can tell you that.
The thing that's amazing to me is how successful it's been over the years. I remember I was a reporter for Variety magazine for a number of years, and I remember covering the press conference when NAB was announcing that they thought they were going to have over 50,000 people at the show, and now we're over 100,000. And I mean, just look at the number of people walking this floor, and it's just a salute and tribute to the staff at the NAB.
Well, I have a deep love for broadcasting. I got my FCC third-class ticket in 1976, 40 years ago. I'll be celebrating my 40th year as a broadcaster this year, and it's a great. There's something magical about radio, about TV. But and as a broadcaster, I've really embraced the internet, and I really feel like it's all about reaching our audience, however we reach them.
Whatever platform we can be on, we want to be on. We want to respect copyright, obviously, but you can't be. This is not your father's broadcast.
No,
you have to be on cell phones. You have to be on laptops. You have to be in the back seats of cars. And every one of our broadcasters now gets that. Maybe 10 years ago,
they fought it for a while.
A little bit, but now, I mean, we're the most popular websites in most of the communities. Radio and TV stations.
Right.
So we're moving to a new generation of television standard that we talked about here this week called ATSC 3.0, which will allow us to do more things with spectrum to Ultra HD, mobile television on your cell phone. So absolutely, we're embracing all forms of distribution.
Sure. Yeah. Is it the NAB Show?
No, it's the NAB Show.
Okay, I'm just checking.
But most people here don't even realize, or a lot of people here don't even realize that Most of the year, we're an advocacy organization
Right.
in Washington,
Right.
protecting the interests of radio and TV stations in front of Congress and the FCC. And we put on this little show out in Vegas of 100,000 of our close personal friends every year.
Yeah.
But our full-time job is promoting us in Washington.
It's an industry trade association,
Exactly.
National Association of Broadcasters. But
Correct.
when you get to the trade show, it is the NAB
Oh,
show.
no doubt. And,
You know?
hey, this is the engine that drives the train
Yeah.
in terms of revenue.
Yeah.
And, we've never raised dues in the 20 years that I've been in
That's
the
nice.
NAB
That's
because
nice.
of the success of this trade show.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's always fun coming here.
I walk past your building when I used to live in D.C. every day on my way to work. I think it's very important to remember that NAB is an advocacy group, which makes me wonder, one of the things that you've done incredibly well here at the show
Right.
is you have combined what we might consider old school broadcasting and all the companies that supply equipment and services
Sure.
to old school broadcasting, along with the best of new media.
Absolutely.
And those are two incredibly different groups, very different ways of looking at the creation of content.
Sometimes see each other as competitors
Exactly,
even, right?
and that competitive spirit, where sometimes the traditional broadcasters are saying you're muscling in on our territory,
Right.
and you have new media who's doing more things that look like traditional broadcasting. How do you play the advocate for both of those groups?
Well, so as I was mentioning earlier, it's not either or. From our perspective, it's both. You have to embrace the broadcast platforms of yesterday as it evolves into the broadcast platforms of tomorrow. For example, I just mentioned we're transitioning to next generation television, which is called, in engineering terms, ATSC 3.0.
That's the broadcast standard.
Which is
yeah.
a new broadcast standard, which allows mobility, allows you to do ultra high definition television. And on the radio front, we're trying to get radio chips, we're trying to get activated FM radio chips in cell phones so that you can receive over-the-air broadcast signals on your cell phone.
You know, it's so funny because the phones are built with them because
They are.
Internationally, that's very popular. You buy a phone that has an FM radio in it.
And
Why not here in the States?
Well, the chips are actually built in, but the carriers, wireless carriers, who like
Oh,
to see
they don't want
you
it.
blow through your data
Yeah.
charges, so you pay a little extra, sometimes don't want to activate the chip. The good news is we've got AT&T that's activated the chip,
Good.
Sprint, T-Mobile. We have a couple of outliers, Verizon, Apple someday we think will join the crowd. But from a public safety perspective alone, when you have the head of the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA, saying we ought to activate the chips because in an emergency you want to have that broadcast platform delivering local
Absolutely.
content.
Cell
that
towers
save
could go
lives.
down, but the radio
Absolutely.
stations don't. And I,
Correct.
as a broadcaster, worked the San Francisco earthquake
Sure.
in '89, and that's where people went. That was what you had.
Absolutely.
You
And
need
Hurricane
that.
Sandy was another
Sandy,
example of
yeah.
that. Katrina. It was the broadcaster who's going to be giving the lifeline emergency information that can actually save lives. So I think we'll get there.
How does radio feel about the future? Are they bullish?
I think so. Yeah, we've got Next Radio app, which is allowing interactive and mobility and selling opportunities with record labels. And so, yeah, I think radio is also evolving just as, and keeping the dashboard experience relevant to radio stations. So, yeah, radio's in good shape. TV.
Good, because I have a radio show, and if you could please just keep
Well,
radio
absolutely.
alive for a little
Yeah.
longer. No, what's nice, and I think radio has totally made this transition. I work for Premier, which is iHeartRadio.
Right.
Totally understood the transition to digital, and it's hand in hand. They go
Right.
hand in hand.
800 stations on the iHeart platform
Right.
sort of demonstrates the value
Yeah.
of radio moving to new platforms.
We just want to be wherever our audience is.
That's exactly right. Couldn't say it better myself.
Dennis, great to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
2 decades of great stewardship, and as a broadcaster, I'm very grateful at the end.
We're happy to have you here. Welcome.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show.
And a lot of fun. What a
Thank
great
you.
trade show.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.